G'day, Matt from Better Music, and we're very fortunate today to have an Australian music icon with us here, Diesel.
Cheers, Matt.
Thanks for coming in, brother.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're going to talk about Vox amplifiers. I hope you guys enjoy. We've got a new album out.
Yeah.
We've got a tour on. Mm-hmm. It's all happening, and it's all happening with Vox. So you're an American-born Australian artist using a British iconic amp.
Yeah. And well, there you go.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Man of the world. So how do you get your sound? Like, is there anything like different out of the ordinary that you do?
I was explaining this to, I don't know if it's I don't know what ordinary is, but yeah, I certainly didn't arrive at this straight away, but a Vox amp was actually left behind by my brother when I was 14, and I've been playing cello before that.
Oh, right.
So he left me a Fender P-Bass and a Vox AC50, and he went over to Europe to work with a Holiday on Ice production. He was stage managing.
Right.
And he went away for quite a few years. That was a tour that never ended. So I was left with this awesome 60s period. I can still remember the smell of it. And so I didn't know what it was. And I'm embarrassed to admit that I walked up to a local music shop and I won't mention the brand, but I saw this amp and it had chorus built in. I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. And I said to the guy, hey, I've got this blah, blah, blah. We don't do a swap? And he was like, no, get out. And he just kind of like got the willies with me. And I'm so glad he did, because my life would have changed right there and then.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it was a funny Vox because it had a horn in it, and it was meant for I guess keyboard / vocal, but it still had those beautiful silver bulldogs, you know. And it was a 212 cabinet separate, and the head. And as I kind of started learning about what's what, I realized this is a really good amp.
A lot of amps from that period were actually made as like an all-purpose amp. Now they're PA and plug anything into them. So that's probably what it was.
Well, it was, and but it's so easy to convert. I remember someone, I can't remember who it was, but they just said, "Oh, that's easy. Just disconnect the horn, take it out, just snip it," and that's all I had to do. And this metal horn, and I just. That was a really good amp for me. It was more than enough power for a long time. Sadly, it got taken to a lot of amp repairers that probably didn't really know what they were doing, and they swapped out parts and put the wrong value in and stuff. And it just kind of it just drifted off the tone that I remember when I first got it. And I got it back again. And then I swapped it for a JMP Marshall, which I don't regret. But I did miss the warm bottoms, because the JMP just sounded really shrill to me, and it was like, okay, I get it. I can see why Marshalls are popular, but I miss those bottoms. It just didn't have it. So even with the bass turned all the way up. But that Vox was really good for me, and I definitely wore it right in with, it was already a mid-60s Vox, we're talking in the 80s, so it was already had 20 years of life blown into it. Yeah. And then I gave it some stick with the P-Bass, and then I finally got an electric guitar. But, I mean, this is how, it's kind of naive I was, because I went from cello to bass to guitar. I remember, like, my first band that I was in, I was, like, always... on the neck pickup, because I just thought, well, that one sounds the nicest, Yeah. Those ones are like, ow, they're scary. I was like, I'll just stay on the neck pickup, you know. And the singer came over, and one day in rehearsal, and he just went click like that and switched to the back pickup, and suddenly at that point I just had that sinking feeling of like, I don't know what I'm doing really. Yeah. I was like, I'm really out of my realm. They've just found out that I really don't know. I mean, they knew. They're all like 10 years older than me, and I was, maybe somewhere 14 and a half, I guess I was. And I made it into this band through the Sunday paper, like going through the wanted ads. Yeah. And they must have seen that, hey, his fingers are pretty nimble, because that's from playing cello and bass. But I got on the guitar, and it was like, can't be that hard.
Yeah.
It's just like, make some shapes. But I had no idea about the electronics and how to work the sounds of an electric guitar. So with the amp, I just kind of would put everything sort of in the middle, you know, and start there. But I guess my MO, as I started using pedals and stuff, and I became more of a headroom junkie, I just basically realized that most amps, I think it's safe to say that they have that point where they're good, you know, they're breaking up just that little bit, and then after that, every amp, there's no such thing as just like, oh, just headroom all the way to the end. I don't think that exists. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I find that spot where I've got the headroom, and then I'll use a boost pedal. I'm not much of a volume knob fiddler because I'm a singer, I guess. I don't have time to do much in that department. I mean, it's not like I don't use all the positions and the tone control sometimes for effect, but like the idea of backing down on the volume, it's like that's reserved for guitar players that can just sort of concentrate on that stuff. I've got enough going on between singing and my feet going all over the place with pedals, but I do use a volume pedal to kind of have kind of a standing point and then more juice. You know, that's kind of like where I have it set up.
Right.
So I mean, if like on this little amp, this AC30. Hand wired. This is a great starting point with Vox, I think, because it's quite a simple design. It does give you a master volume that you can kick in if you want or not. So if you want to kind of get some preamp distortion and at a lower level, you can. And I've got it on 15 watts at the moment, so it's still pretty.
It sounds loud. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing about Voxes is because of the EL84. Except for the AC50, which uses an EL34, but the EL84 is a skinny tube, kind of like, that sort of, or kind of more like that, I guess. So it runs hot, and there's a quartet of them in the 30 watter. And the first thing I ever noticed when I plugged into an AC30 was no matter at any kind of level, you sort of hit a chord, and then out of the blue, surprisingly, it just kind of starts sort of feeding back in a nice way, or you're doing something really musical, blooming, and like you don't have to like turn it up to like you like run the bejesus out of it to kind of get it to do something, because the valves are like they're ready to go all the time.
Yeah, they're cranky little suckers.
They really are. They're like they run very hot, and that's the tone. You know, it's just my sound guy Warwick, he describes it as like small bubbles as opposed to like big bubbles. I mean, the distortion that is. When you've got four little valves, it's kind of like the difference between champagne and just like, you know, really cheap soda water or something. I don't know, but like, you know, let's even go further and go vintage champagne where the bubbles are really, really small. So the distortion's quite silky and just really even, and it's not, if that's your thing. But
and you can hear all the strings.
Yes.
Yeah, especially with your playing where you play a lot of chords and a lot of voicings. So it's really important.
True. Yeah. They also just, I don't know if it was an accident or not, but way back, you know, they figured out that the Blue Bulldog Alnico, I mean, they sound great with greenbacks too, but any Vox that I've had, I always end up flipping it to a Blue Bulldog eventually. Even some of the smaller combos, I pimp out and put a Blue Bulldog in them because they just sound so much chimier for me. Anyway, it's what I like. Yeah. But it depends what you're into. If you like more of a honkier, darker tone, then the green Bulldog, the greenback will give you that, no doubt. But that blue speaker, it's kind of it's said by many that you can put that in just about anything and you're going to get something good. Yeah, right. It's just a great speaker. So they're just. I mean, my love affair started with Vox a long time ago, and you know, I went. Not out of choice or anything, but I ended up with a 200 watt high watt, which is another amazing, you know, boutique, I guess, British amp. Only because I came back from being overseas and I had no amp, and someone said, "Hey, I've got a high watt you can really annoy everyone on the planet with," and that's exactly what I did. Yeah. 200 watts.
Massive.
So kind of full circle. I went the whole rack system. Pete Cornish made me a massive rack thing, which was fantastic. And I had, you know, big power amps, Revstar power amps. But when it came time to, like, I wanted to get back into combos again, the first thing I did was go out and buy two AC30s. Yeah.
Well, two AC30s have done the job for so many big artists.
It was actually a guitar tech who'd been on the road with Midnight Oil, and he said, "Have you ever toured with," I was just about to start a tour, and he goes, "I'm going to go and get two of Midnight Oil's AC30s out of the lockup and just see if you like them. And I was like, okay. And it was like, that's it. It was like addiction.
Yeah, right.
Straight away.
Yeah.
So it's just, the most buttery kind of, and I do like an amp that can be clean, but in a really nice way as well.
Yeah.
That's kind of very important for me. I don't have much sort of use for an amp that doesn't clean up, at a decent level. Like I need loud clean. And that's where boost pedals, come in handy. I tend to use like a super hard-on sort of thing.
I've got one of those.
Yeah, it's kind of cool for these amps because it just punches the preamp in the face, and these preamps can kind of handle it. They like it, they like being hit really hard like that, and it just turns it into another beast. And I think a lot of people kind of discount Voxes as being sort of more kind of like indie jangle or blues or whatever, but with the right drive pedal or with the right with a big muff even, you can get kind of pretty
full on
run the gamut of sounds.
I was fortunate enough to be backstage at Status Quo, and they had like a massive wall of stacks, and behind them is two AC30s that are mic'd up, and also I was fortunate enough to meet Billy Duffy after a Cult show, and I said to him that particular night, I said, "Wow, man, your guitar sound was absolutely fabulous. What are you using?" He goes, "I've got two AC30s."
Yeah, they don't look quite as impressive though on a huge stage, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless you have the 3-tier stack that Brian May had on the last Queen tour, where a friend of mine was doing lighting rigging on that, and he brought home these photos, and I was like so jealous because he had literally like a choir, like one tier, 2-tier, 3-tier, like on a specially made stand.
Wow.
And it was just all AC30s.
And hasn't he got to have the most recognisable tone of all time?
Yeah, well that I mean, like it's in his hands, obviously,
yeah, sure.
but AC 30s, 15s, or whatever, just Voxes in general do have that really fluty kind of type thing.
Yeah.
And combine that with that guitar, no doubt, in his hands, it's such a signature sound that, I mean, I'm sure we all remember hearing it on the radio for the first time, and I just thought that must be like a cocked wah or something. Like, how does he get the amount of like nasally sort of like really defined sound? And maybe he used a treble boosted range master or something like that, but it's really just like all in the hands, I believe.
Well, you've got a signature sound too.
Well, I mean, a lot of my sound is just the big strings. That's all I do.
Yeah, big strings, but it's yours.
Yeah, I guess so.
It is. And so you were saying earlier that you actually used Vox a fair bit on the current album, Americana.
Yeah. Well, look, I always go for what I kind of know. I guess take the path of least resistance. And most of the sounds generally tend to be just big, open, sparkly sounds like the Falcon with the Rickenbacker pickups that I've got, and I mean, just any guitar will work through the. I've got the head version of this.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because I can have it in the control room and just run the speaker lead out to the box.
Yeah.
It's kind of handy because it's kind of where you want everything.
Yeah.
Once you've experienced recording in the control room and having everything there and sort of, you never kind of like, the idea of going out with headphones on, I mean, I tried it when I was, first recording years and years ago because I didn't know any better, but it's just like being in a bomb zone out there. You can't tell what's going on, and the timing gets all weird. But I always say that the speakers are like, they're your canvas, and you need to like know what's going on in the between those two speakers, because that's ultimately what you're going to end up with.
Well, that's probably really good advice.
Yeah, so whatever it takes to make it vibey, like my ultimate vibey kind of situation is when the amp is somewhere else and I can feel it, which inevitably you can, unless the studio is designed so ridiculously soundproofed, which I'm not a fan of. But usually you feel it coming through the walls, but it's not like killing you. And then you've got it coming through the speakers, and you got the, you know, your nice mics and your preamp chain, and it's just like sounding like, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, you know, it shouldn't take too long.
Yeah.
When everything's all good like that and everything feels good, recording should be easy, you know, and that's why if it's not, time. Something's wrong.
Yeah, you need to be enjoying it. I really dig Queen Jane Approximately. On the album,
yeah. Well, that was another big drop D. You know, I've discovered the drop D thing, and I thought it worked for Ring of Fire, so, you know. Great thing about Bob Dylan songs is there's never that many chords, you know. So and it's just nice and just stretched out. They're a guitar player's dream, pretty much. I mean, look at, you know, All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like he would have heard that, just would have made him all inspired, and it's and then, you know, I mean, surely I've never read anything. Someone must know, but when Bob heard it, he must have been like, it's pretty good.
I think I heard somewhere that he reckons that Hendrix's version was the definitive version.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's right. Somebody put a comment and tell me otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, just it's a guitar opus. It really is.
Oh yeah.
Like just all the parts that
I
come
love
in.
that one. Yeah,
and the role of the 12 string, I think, in there, just getting slammed like through whatever compressor. It's just
one of my favourites to cover when I go out. I always do a really long lead break in it.
That and Hurricane, you've got a whole set, right?
Yeah, that's right. Pretty
you
much.
only need 2 songs.
Yeah, 2 stories. One with a long lead break and one with a long story. Yeah.
Get the string machine going, you know.
AC4?
Yeah.
You've got one of those as well.
I do.
Yeah.
It's great for you know, I use it as a delay amp sometimes, just to have just delay.
Oh, okay. So like a wet dry. Kind
but
of
I actually
setup.
like blending it in when I want like a smidge of Vox on top of something else. It's like that teaspoon of Vox, because even though it's only a 4-watt amp, the thing that really impressed me with that this version of it was it just sounds like an AC30 or a 15. It just has that. Right. It's not just like
tonally. It's in
it
the
really
same
does.
ballpark.
It's just smaller, and this one with the 12, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get that whole vibe, but without all the levels. So, say if I'm running through like a little deluxe scenario, that real kind of clean Fender Spanky thing, but I'm missing that mid-range from the box, I'll just, you know, do a split to both the amps, and then I can have a bit of Vox as well, and even side by side, because the bleed is so minimal.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a handy little tool.
Yeah.
And if you ever, you know, doing small gigs, I've done a few little TV things and radio things where that's just the perfect sort of antidote. It's sort of like, I want my sound, but I can only be like at that level.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that must be a really good thing, being
Actually, I use that for rehearsing.
Yeah, right.
With the band.
There
Yeah, it's a perfect rehearsing amp. I set it all up, and then I've got a Pathfinder, the little transistor job next to it. So it's like a miniature version of my stage rig.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it must be good being a performing and touring artist to be able to turn up somewhere and be able to get your sound without necessarily taking your personal equipment as well.
Well, look, it's definitely. I mean, I know which kind of my favourite ones are out of the Vox range. My sound guy definitely knows.
Yeah.
And he'll always call ahead and go.
Yeah.
And then it's nothing that's not. It's nothing that's, you know, like rare or tricky or anything. So. You know, it's pretty easy to source AC30s all over the world. So I'm just in good company there, and it kind of is one thing I don't have to worry about.
Yeah. For sure. I think that's a really good thing.
It takes me, you know, a few seconds, but it's a very quick thing for me to like dial up.
Yeah,
It's like I
get your settings on there.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like push-pull or you know, like
Chuck your delay pedal in
heaps
the
of
front.
channels and things to deal with, and or something that's going to like, you know, stump you halfway through the gig, and you look over and go, oh, no, that was
where's
on.
the mid-range or something?
No wonder it was sounding bad. There was like that button was pushed in.
Yeah. That's a very cool thing.
I'm very much a fan of an amp that kind of is just like you plug into it and that's what it is. You know, if you either like it or you don't.
Yeah.
I'm not really into the kind of like, it's a chameleon. It can do like a million sort of things. It's like, well, I just want one really good.
Yeah.
Having said that though, it suits an awful lot of guitars because it has got a lot of open brightness at the top. So at the moment I'm running this Revstar with the humbuckers, which generally they do need a little bit more open air. And with the cut control, you know, it's like turning on the hot water. It's really easy just to open it up. There's one knob. That's all you have to do. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Very cool.